All right, so for this part, to start the Sharpie part, or we often refer to this as the inking part, what you're going to do initially is just take an ultrafine Sharpie marker, which I've got one right there. So you're just going to take an ultrafine Sharpie marker and you're just going to go over all of your main lines with just a single thickness of line. And you can see I've already started this. I did not Sharpie over this. I did not Sharpie over my indentations that I made there. And if I were to continue, I wouldn't be doing any of those like details that I did actually yesterday. So all of those textile details, all the stitching, actually, and I removed my stitching because I'll probably have to move it anyways. The stitching, the fabric, the textile details, we're going to leave alone for right now. So basically what we're going to do is we're just going to ink in all our main lines. I've done basically all of this, and I've started going in and doing the shoelaces. I'm going to do the shoelaces here just for the video, so just so you can see it. I want to give you guys a few little tips on how to work with these Sharpies. Now, some of the bad things with the Sharpies is that when you draw your line, if you draw really slow, like this, you can see what happens is the marker will bleed out, okay? So when you use the Sharpies, you need to make sure that when you're drawing your line, you know what you're doing, you just keep it moving, okay? Because the minute you stop that marker, like this, and hold it there, you're going to get some bleeding. All right, so just make sure that you're not letting that Sharpie marker rest on top of there, okay? So when I do this, I'm just going over my lines. Again, keep my Sharpie moving. Now, if I kind of accidentally trace it a little bit differently, I don't make it a big deal because I will be going back through this and thickening up areas, and I can probably fix it up later. Now this is when it's really important for you guys to make sure that you have erased all the lines that you do not want anymore. So on your shoelaces, make sure that you really did erase all of the objects that were behind those shoelaces, like the tops of the lace holes. I see that a lot of times. People still have those drawn in, so it makes the shoelaces look transparent. So just go back through and make sure that you did indeed erase all of those. But you're just going to go over, again, with just a single thickness of line. We're not going to deal with what to thicken up or when yet. That will be the second step of this. Okay? I'll just finish this. And so there we go. Got my laces on there. Okay? So what I want you guys to do, if you think you're ready to Sharpie, up on my back desk are the Sharpies, but I want to see your drawing first. So you got to get past me first to get a Sharpie. Okay? Actually, I need to grab the Sharpies and have them with me. That's what I'll do. I'm going to hold them hostage. Okay? So if you think you're ready to Sharpie, come up to me. Let me see your drawing, and I'll give you one when you're ready. All right, so I worked on, I'm going to minimize this just a little bit. I've got my shoelaces all inked in. Now, you should have, and this is just my demo piece, and I should have all my main parts inked in at this point. I even have parts of my drawing that I still haven't put in there yet. So just keep that in mind. This is not necessarily how you should be approaching it. This is just my demo piece, and I don't necessarily have the time to finish it. So let's pretend with the magic of television that this is all finished. Okay, I inked over all of my main lines, my major edges. I have continued to keep all of my little details like the stitching and the textile details alone. So I have not inked those in, and I'm still going to ignore those even on this step. So now the next step for you guys is you got to figure out what parts of your shoe do you need to darken, or I mean not darken but thicken. we're going to use space as the indicator for that. So whatever is closest to you should appear thicker. So right now you have your thinnest line already on your drawing, okay? So everything else that's going to happen now is just going to be thicker. So when we're talking specifically about like maybe perhaps the shoelaces, all the shoelaces here in the front should be getting thicker, okay? This whole section right here needs to be thicker than what's back here. So if you think about, this is my furthest edge. So this edge is the farthest away from me. I'm going to leave this alone. But as this edge creeps over to the front, it should be gradually getting thicker and being the thickest here in the front. So if you want to think about it this way. Thin, medium, thick. Now, I'm not going to get huge with the thickness of my lines, and I'll show you. Here's this one here, another shoe that I did actually last year. You can see where I thickened up stuff. I've got, again, you look at the opening of the shoe, so this is my thinnest line because, again, that edge is actually the farthest away from me. And then look at what happens here in the back of the shoe. It gradually gets thicker and it's thickest here in the front, okay? I obviously still have work that I need to do in here. You guys look at my shoelaces. I have dealt with that with my shoelaces, okay? I'm getting them thicker as they get closer. And that's part of what you'll be graded on when I actually, grade these when we're finished with them. So this is part of the inking grade, okay? So that's kind of what it will look like finished. Now how to do this, okay? I get this question a lot. And I would even too, you can practice this on the cover of your table folder. I don't care if you guys sketch on top of that, so feel free to use that for practice. So when you're trying to thicken up a line, again, I start off with just a regular thin line, and then what I do is I essentially just build it up. And that's how I do that. Now, if you look at this, you can see that there's a little bumps and stuff. I actually have a trick on how to fix that. I'm not going to fix it now, but I'll fix it later. So when I'm doing this in here in these shoelaces, let's see if I can get a little bit wider. Again, I start about right here in the middle. Come on, marker. There you go. And then I start thickening it up. Now, I do get questions about should I thicken it up on the outside or the inside of the line. I think that all depends on what you've got going on next to it. So if you've got stuff on the outside of that edge that you're worried that you're going to cover up, the answer to that would then be thicken up the inside. If you've got room to thicken it up on the outside, do that. So that's how I thicken that up. I'm going to even do these lines that are here on the inside because, again, they're getting closer to me as they come to the front, so they need to get wider and thicker. Okay, and I'm just going to keep going. I'm going to start here in the middle and build this up. Now this part, believe it or not, takes quite a lot of time because you have to think about what you're doing before you do it. So you have to ask yourself, what's in front? Where do I start? Do I need to go thicker? Okay, constantly asking yourself questions in your head. Okay, so now what I want you guys to do is now take that Sharpie marker and start thickening your lines where it needs to be thicker in the front, okay? So you guys can start doing that. And I will put this example, this more finished one, up so you can see that. So we're going to pause and then I'll show you the next step, which will be how do we deal with all of these textile details. Okay, so I've got my more finished demo from last year and then this one here where I just started thickening up those. This has got more stuff that's been thickened up. You just want to make sure, and this is probably one of the things I get the pickiest about, and will send you back to your tables to do more work on it. A lot of kids are just scared that they're going to do too much or they don't know how much to do, and that's perfectly normal. You're not doing anything wrong. So But one thing that you don't see on here, and I would just when you go back to your seats, take a look at it. I have not done any line variation on the front of this. If you think about this, this is the arch of the shoe, and that sort of goes in, and these two areas go out. So you even want this to be a little thinner than these two areas. So these two areas should be thicker, have thicker lines than that. But this all collectively should be thicker than these lines that are here in the back. Okay, because you got to think about this is the very front of your shoe. Okay. So the next thing I'm going to show you guys how to deal with is all of these details that we've kind of been holding off to the end of each step of this drawing. So what we're going to do, and I've talked to a few of you guys on an individual basis. Some of you guys, I've talked to you about even leaving some of these things in pencil. So if you're thinking about doing that or like that idea, let me know. Me personally, I'm going to be putting quite a lot of this in, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to ink it in, but I'm just going to ink it in with this pen. I've got a couple different thin pens that we can use for this. Unfortunately, I don't have enough for everybody to have one, but it usually works out. So all I'm going to do is take this thin pen, and I'm essentially going to go in and ink over these lines. Now in these textile areas. Try to zoom in here. But I'm not just going to stop there, okay? Need to add some more right there. I am going to go in and I'm going to thicken up again. And sometimes you can thicken up by just going over it one more time. I'm going to thicken these up a little bit because these are in the front. Okay, do you see that? And I'll do these lines right here just so you can see how it looks together. It's blocked in.
We have a work study.
Oh, okay. So I'm going to go in and thicken these up too. Just right up here in the front. Again, make them thinner as they go back towards the back. So now we're going to deal with using the ink pen now for all those little details. This is also too, you're going to use your ink pen for all your stitching lines. So any stitching lines you need to put in, those are going to be plugged in with this. But you want to make sure that you have all your Sharpie lines done before you do any of this stuff. Okay? Because if you end up finding out you need to go in and thicken up some of this stuff, you may cover up those stitching lines that you initially put in there. Okay? So that is the next step. Okay? So if you think you're ready for details, I want you guys to come up. I will have pens. I need to go the other way with this. And I'll give you a pen. But I want to see that your Sharpie is finished first. So that's the end of this demo.